A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left.
President Trump is living in this disinformation space.
I've had very good talks with Putin.
The United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome.
You know, we've given them $350 billion. In some form, get this money back.
We paid 60% of the total effort, and it was loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money.
All right, let's cut straight to the point. Why does Donald Trump seem so cozy and friendly with Russia? Why does he downplay threats from Putin while throwing shade at NATO and Ukraine? Well, today, we're breaking down the 5 real reasons Trump is siding with Russia. And trust me, nothing seems like a coincidence. Now, you probably know all the recent talking points, claims of election meddling, and secret business deals. Or maybe you can say it's just Trump being Trump. But there's more to this story than meets the eye. Whether you love him or hate him, one thing is clear. Trump's stance on Russia isn't random. It's fully calculated and measured. And if you look a little deeper, all the reasons behind it tell a much bigger story about power, influence, and global politics. But before we go further, like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell icon for further updates. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about partisan politics. It's about facts.
Over the past 2 weeks, we've looked at how Donald Trump's business history made him vulnerable to Russian influence, and how Russia targeted members of Trump's election campaign staff, warning of a brazen threat to Western democracy.
Trump's actions over the years paint a disturbing picture of a leader who repeatedly chooses to benefit Russia over America's best interests. From his foreign policy decisions to his personal financial ties, every move he makes seems to align more with Putin's playbook than with defending democracy. And if you think this is just speculation, think again. We've got the receipts. If you're tired of hearing the same old things and want to face the real truth, you're in the right place. Stick with me, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why Trump continues to back Russia, no matter the cost. Let's go. Number 5, ideological affinity with authoritarian leadership. It's clear that Trump has a thing for strong men. And no, we're not talking about heavyweight lifting champions. This Trump guy really admires leaders who rule with an iron fist and have real power in this world like Putin, Kim Jong-un, Xi Jinping. He has already called them tough and strong while mocking democratic leaders as weak. He's openly praised Putin's ability to control Russia, even as that control means silencing critics, jailing opponents, and suppressing free speech.
If I didn't get elected, I believe he would have just continued to go through Ukraine, and over a period of time, a lot of people would have been killed, would have lasted for a period of time. And the reason that Ukraine, and I have great respect for Ukraine as fighters, great fighters, but without our equipment, that war would have been over, like people said, in a very short period.
Trump has promised retribution against perceived political enemies and has stated his right to target opponents. He supports outlawing misleading political dissent and has called for press companies to revoke licenses for unfavorable coverage. Trump has been described as using grievance as a political tool, portraying himself as a victim of a powerful deep state. He has threatened future opponents and intimidated those who would cross him. And it's not just talk. Trump's governing style mirrors this, from attacking the press to trying to overturn elections. Sound familiar? Trump doesn't just side with Russia. He wants to earn and be that kind of power himself. Number 4, skepticism toward traditional alliances and support for Ukraine. If there's one thing Trump has been consistent about, it's hating NATO. He's called it obsolete, threatened to pull out, and even suggested the U.S. wouldn't defend its allies.
NATO was busted until I came along. I said, everybody's going to pay. They said, well, if we don't pay, are you still going to protect us? I said, absolutely not. They couldn't believe the answer. I came in, I made a speech, and I said, you got to pay up. They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. no, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
And guess who loves that? Putin, because a weak NATO is a dream come true for Russia. Trump's efforts to negotiate a deal with Putin, a global strongman, have led to a shift in the global conversation from whether the war will end to how it will end. Trump has conceded some of Russia's top goals and has turned on America's European friends who have shared the cost of supporting Ukraine's war effort. Trump's view of every geopolitical crisis as a real estate deal suggests he might embrace an agreement that lets Putin keep all of the land he's stolen just to stop the killing. There is a big risk he's being played by Putin, as the Russian leader warmed the atmosphere ahead of the Saudi talks by handing Trump victories with the release of several U.S. prisoners. A hurried peace deal that strengthens Russia and weakens European security by validating Putin's expansionism would likely sow the seeds for an even worse future war. Trump has given few signs that he has Ukraine's interests at heart, echoing one of Putin's rationales for the war. Europe's participation in peace talks is necessary to even the playing field. Then there's Ukraine. Trump held up military aid in 2019, tried to strong-arm President Zelensky into digging up dirt on Biden, and now he's openly saying he'd end the war in 24 hours. Which is code for giving Putin whatever he wants. Trump isn't just skeptical of supporting Ukraine, he's actively making it harder for them to fight back. Number 3. Economic interests in Ukraine's natural resources. Follow the money, and you'll find Trump's fingerprints all over it. Ukraine isn't just a battleground. It's rich in natural resources, coal, oil, and gas. And guess who's got their eyes on it? Russia. Ukraine's President Zelensky has proposed an agreement with the U.S. to extract half of the revenue from future natural resource monetization to a special fund. The U.S. has dropped the $500 billion demand, which was previously agreed upon. However, the scale of Ukraine's assets, including uranium, lithium, oil, and gas, is unknown. The last mapping of rare earth metals was completed decades ago, and some elements are in Russia's territory. The promise of future returns could spur U.S. investment in rebuilding Ukraine, estimated to cost $524 billion. The deal is conditional on American involvement in policing a truce with Russia, which has been opposed by the Trump administration. The U.S. may have a friendlier president by the time mines are operational, and Ukraine could review or tear up the contract. Volodymyr Zelensky might visit Washington on February 28th to sign the agreement. Trump's own connections to Russian oligarchs run deep. His businesses have benefited from Russian money for decades. And let's not forget, his 2016 campaign was packed with pro-Kremlin advisors. By siding with Russia, Trump isn't just playing politics. He's helping his own financial interests. Ukraine's independence threatens Putin's grip on resources. And Trump, he's more than willing to look the other way. Number 2, strategic realignment to counter China. Now, this one's big. Trump has one other obsession which is even bigger than Russia, and that is China. He sees China as the #1 enemy, and guess what? So does Putin. That's why Trump isn't just soft on Russia. He sees them as a potential ally in his personal Cold War against China. China is bracing for a rocky road ahead in its relationship with the U.S., following Donald Trump's election victory, with expectations of a tougher stance from Washington, ranging from trade and tech battles to tensions over Taiwan. Beijing has been preparing for impact. Those fears became reality this week when Trump slapped a 10% tariff on all Chinese goods.
President Trump described the chance that he would hold off on raising tariffs on Chinese goods from 10% to 25% on January 1. Highly unlikely that anything would stop that. Now, Beijing had been hoping that those tariffs on $200 billion in Chinese products would be on the negotiating table at the G20. But in that interview, President Trump signaled that those are now baked in. Instead, if he and President Xi cannot reach a deal, Trump said he'll forge ahead with tariffs on the remaining $267 billion in Chinese imports,
prompting swift retaliation from China, including counter tariffs export restrictions, and an antitrust probe into Google. But China knows it can't simply go blow for blow with the US, given America's economic leverage and trade deficit. Instead, Beijing has been playing the long game. Since Trump's first term, Chinese policymakers have been refining their strategy, not just for short-term countermeasures, but for a broader, more calculated response. Over the past 3 months, they've been quietly strengthening China's economy and foreign alliances, gearing up not just to withstand US pressure, but to reshape the playing field in their favor. But by undermining NATO, withdrawing support from Ukraine, and letting Putin expand his influence, Trump is helping Russia become stronger. Why? Because in his mind, a stronger Russia means a weaker China, even if that means selling out America's own interests in the process. Number 1. Personal interests and potential compromising information. And here's the big one. What if Trump doesn't even have a choice? What if Russia has something on him? We know about Trump's decades-long business dealings in Russia. We know about his mysterious ties to Russian oligarchs. And let's not forget the infamous Steele dossier, filled with allegations about Trump's connections to Putin's regime. Steele dossier, or you might know it as Trump-Russia dossier, a controversial 2017 unfinished 35-page report by counterintelligence specialist Christopher Steele, is a potentially unverifiable collection of unverified memos he considered raw intelligence for further investigation. Even beyond blackmail, Trump has legal and financial reasons to stay in Russia's good graces. Who else would bail him out if he needed help? Putin, of course. So whether it's compromat or cold hard cash, Trump has every reason to stay loyal to Moscow, even if it means betraying America's best interests. So there you have it. 5 undeniable reasons Trump is siding with Russia. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's all laid out in the facts. Trump has spent years undermining NATO, helping Putin, and prioritizing his own interests over America's security. The question isn't whether Trump is on Russia's side. The question is, how much further will he go? But now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Trump's ties to Russia are just a coincidence? Or is there something more sinister at play? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more hard-hitting breakdowns like this. Also, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future deep dives.